I forensically read RFPs because I used to write them. And let me tell you, since probably the year 2000, the government has not written a single decent RFP that I've read. They don't train their people. They have consultants come in and write them, but those guys obviously charge more than I do, and they have less knowledge because the RFPs are terrible. So, what did I learn reading the evaluation criteria? You've got several pass-fail elements that I refer to as landmines. You step on those, they said you're out. The language is very clear. They won't evaluate you any further. That generally falls into two areas, the general volume 1 and the responsibility volume 7. Okay? Credits. The qualified project and past performance, it rules winning or losing. They've set minimum thresholds that you must get to. Okay? So, everyone in the original OASIS, the large business proposal, which I worked on literally for months, and our proposal director made it the worst, most complex kludge she could, and it ate about 20 people for the last 4 weeks full time, which none of us can afford. None of us in this room can afford. But the OASIS, original OASIS was terrible. In this case, they've given you an unlimited number of awards, so they follow the C4E model. So there's no protest over the number of people in a pool. That was a big OASIS protest mess. But what they've done is give you a threshold. If you don't get all the points you need, boom, you're out. Again, mathematical. Can't be protested. You either have it or you don't have it. So they made their lives, they think they made their lives simpler by doing that. So, we have two kinds of projects. Qualifying and federal experience projects. Then they throw in these terms relevant, non-relevant. I can't quite figure out what that means yet, because I've only read the RFP like 20 times. FEPs are where you pick up things, system certs, and so forth. ISO certs, idle certs, whatever else is in there. Primarily in this case, it's ISO certs and financial. If you have a qualifying ECMA qualified system. Okay, so that's where you score. That's a biggie. Look out for the landmines. Here's the structure. Volume 1. This is where the first landmine is. You got to have all these administrative things correct. And they threaten you. They say if you don't get them all correct, you are not going to pass, go. You don't get to go on to the rest of the evaluation. This is the most important part. The qualifying examples, proposals, and then we have prime contractor experience. This is BIC 1 JV experience. It's binary. You either claim it or you don't get it. There are points associated with it, but you have to claim it. It's either, and same with volume 4. These are yes or no answers. You either have it and can claim it, or you get a 0. Finally, there's the certifications I talked about. There's a huge amount of emphasis for the environmental engineering, which is in technical and engineering. For some reason, which proves to me the government is having real difficulties fielding environmental engineering, there's a really big overweighted chunk of environmental here. Or anyone here doing environmental and hazmat work? Oh, good. We won't talk about that anymore. Okay, in past performance, you take your qualifying project, and you get second set of credit for it in past performance. Up to 20 points here and 6 points there out of the 36 you need for your threshold. So what does that tell you? Pay attention to that. This one, responsibility, I marked it in blue because it's strenuous. Every single member of the joint venture that's put forward has to turn in their financial information and like a GSA 527 or equivalent or an audited financials. And I don't recall right now whether that's just the previous year or the previous 5. Thomas will be hurting that. I choose not to hurt volume 7 because the pain in the rear. So, the domain services required, that's in section C. Simple write-ups, except for tables of general descriptions and keywords that they give you. We may include this, we're not. We'll talk about it later, but there's 94 keywords that I found in one of the domains that need to be searched for within your PWS and SOW. Humanly, that's not possible, so we're going to find a mechanical way to do it. And there's other service limitations also in C. Can I have the next slide, please? Oh, the other thing forensic reading does detects discrepancies, and there are some. I cannot right now make their point totals match what they tell us about the instructions for counting credits. Okay. Oasis, if you didn't work on it because you weren't part of a large business team, it was a mess. You didn't know how they were finally scoring it. Polaris, you knew how they were finally scoring it, but out of 95,000 points, you know, and a minimum of 500 to 750 each for a credit, that's just crap. I used to give a briefing to government people when I was in the government about how to limit scoring to 3 points. Exceeds, meets, doesn't exceed, is non-compliant. A 2, a 1, or a 0. Score everything that way, and what you find is the differences get larger mathematically. I was once a proposal manager, or not a proposal manager, project manager at FAA, where we were building a new data network. 9,000 possible points on our evaluation. 5 vendors were grouped around 7,000 points within 300 points of each other. Because evaluators' tendency was to be kind and give everyone a 7 out of 10. It accomplishes nothing. Okay? We had to go back to all 5 for best and final. It was so annoying. Next slide. So here's what we've begun to do. We reviewed all the pieces. We took in the partner contracts. Chris has about 50, but there's a limitation that we have less than 10 with CPARs. We don't have your information because that's your information. You own it. The idea is let's figure out we're going to bid 3 domains realistically that we can win pieces for you guys. Shortlist that to 15 qualifying projects because we're going to throw some out. We know we are because the PWS doesn't have enough stuff. So that we get to where we need to have a minimum of 15 on our short list that qualify.
So that's 5 per domain.
Because they tell you bid a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 in each domain. So what's the maximum points you can score? You get 1 credit per, you get 5 points. So we want it 5 times 3. I mean, it's algebra, it's basic math. You need 15 qualified, ready to go, green winners. Next slide, please.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
First and foremost, fantastic. I wish we would have that because that would have limited a lot of conversation yesterday. Your second bullet to me.
Well, to that end, I would say, remember where we're headed. We're coming out of us doing it because we do that, right. And now we're shifting over here. Now, proposal coordinators work with folks like Mark, right? So proposal coordinators are tapping into Mark. Mark is setting up the foundation. A proposal manager then can run that foundation. So the compliancy matrix and outlines are being performed because I don't trust the proposal managers to build that type of forensic.
My point is more around the black and white of the first set of bullets where a lot of people yesterday were talking, me included by the way, you know, we have past performance but we're capable of doing other things. Well, they don't care about you being able to ask what they want. If you don't have it, you're out.
That's right.
What do we offer as a group is what we have there.
So this
We
is
don't
the
have it.
strength of the tier 2s and the tier 3s
Right.
that I'm talking about, and a couple tier
Right.
1s have really strong strength.
And Mark, you can't relate to the conversation we had yesterday, obviously.
Yeah.
But that to me is a clear point.
Yeah,
of-
and that's in every proposal.
And I'm gonna ask you, Mark, because your experience into this is, how much of this is really followed across the board? Or is it just GSA, or is this
No,
pretty much?
every Beltway bandit that has any capability at all follows this to some degree.
Okay, all right.
Many of them, even your large competitors, your $3 and $4 billion businesses, do it stupidly. They will lockstep follow a proposal process that doesn't focus on winning. It just focuses on getting a huge dog pile of people together to produce something, and then they're surprised when every now and then they're non-compliant. Because they're so interested in the process, they don't look at what wins versus what complies. Yes?
Sorry, could you go back to volume 3 in the federal crime and how that interplay, you said, mentioned something about
Federal-
the big J.
Yeah, the prime offerer is the lead of the JV.
Okay. I think I.
That's a small change from Polaris. Polaris, everybody had to have a executive compensation package.
Right.
All 22 or however many were. Okay. This one, they've changed it a little bit. Plus, they are asking certain experience things, which I don't remember off the top of my head, that are binary. The JV can claim it if it lives somewhere among the partners and teammates.
Okay, because the unpopulated JV doesn't do anything on its own. So I wasn't understanding how the partners.
Right, but the way the government says is they describe it as the prime offerer. That's the named company that submits the bid with Chris's
Yeah, pick one.
signature on it. Pick one in this instance. So, again, this is a reasonably good RFP. I mean, it's less murky than some others. There are still some questions about that in my mind are, well, okay, can we claim it if a partner has it?
Right. Like FCL, for example, like FCL, for example.
Yeah,
Something that
FCL,
everybody in the
ISO
JV
27001. If one of you has that, then the JV has it.
Okay.
And just about the time I say that equivocally, then they will muddy it by
Because
being
DSS would
ambiguous.
not look at it that way with respect to the FCL,
Yeah.
for example, right, yeah.
Sir,
So you actually sort of said 94 search words. That went past me. What do you mean by search words?
search words, keywords.
Keywords, yeah, what did you mean by that?
The government, when you look at the RFP in section C in the domain descriptions,
Right.
they give you bulleted magical words
Okay,
that they tell you they need to see in your PWS when you highlight it and index it, or it doesn't count. Now, they do offer a simpler thing.
So that got back to the predictive modeling.
Yeah.
So they want predictive modeling, not just modeling.
So,
Even though it might be the same, the word has to be there.
hang on to that question, because as much as I said, that's a very complex thing to search for keywords in your PWS. If you said you wanted to do research and engineering, I'd hand you the 92 words, which you can find in the RFP, and then you would go search through with all your PWSs. Okay. I'm going to offer to simplify that for you, because you don't even have to do that unless the C part looks good. Please.